We're going to talk about the art of consultative selling, how to become a trusted advisor, not just a sales rep. Hi, my name is Neil Wood, and I've been in sales for more than 35 years. In one 5-year period, I brought in more than $1 billion in sales by helping my clients present more ideas and solutions to clients. As a result, we both gained. It was a win-win situation, which is something you'll talk about or hear me talk as we forward. So with the art of consultative selling, it will help you become a trusted advisor, not just another typical sales rep who is always presenting products, not solutions. The close rate for consultative reps is more than 34%. And you won't see that, you typical sales rep. So let's talk about just some of the basics in terms of what we'll cover. What is consultative selling? The definition, the core philosophy, and the 4 pillars the trusted advisor role embraces. Number 2 is why it outperforms product pushing. The data, the psychology, the revenue impact. All of these are things we'll talk about. And finally, number 3 is crafting a powerful list of discovery questions. Now, what's a discovery question? It's a question that you ask the prospect or the client to learn more about their situation. Now, some would say, wait a minute, this is going to sound like an interrogation? No, not at all. Because I'm not asking you to create a list of 50 different questions, just a handful, to really understand the prospects and what they're going through right now. What are the challenges? What's getting in their way of making progress and finding the success that they want to find? So that ties up that portion. Then just a couple other things we're going to talk about, and that is how to build trust as a trusted advisor. Because when you look at the trust equation, there's credibility, reliability, intimacy, and not that type of intimacy, really getting to know somebody well, and self-orientation. And finally, applying the framework daily. When you embrace this consultative approach, you'll find that it just becomes as natural as breathing. And the results are mind-blowing compared to the typical people that just push product. So there's pre-call planning, there's discussing objections. Now, you notice I said discussing, not handling. I don't believe we handle objections. We do discuss them. And it's a back and forth volley, almost like a tennis match, to discuss really what's on the prospect's mind, what questions they might have. And if you have the right answers that you have really thoughtfully prepared and rehearsed, you will sound as natural as a conversation with a good friend. And finally, what's your 30-day action plan? I'm a firm believer in having a call to action. And it would be a waste of time for you to take this course and learn about consultative selling and then do nothing with it. Now, let's talk about the old one. You hear me talk about product pushing. This is why the old approach is losing clients and costing commissions. Because the end result of you taking this course is to close more sales, make more money, have more fun, and find more time. But the old way is pushing products. There was a gentleman who went through my training program, and maybe about a quarter of the way through, he said, hold on, I have a question. He said, I've never heard of consultative selling. And I said, well, what way have you learned? And he said, I've learned about showing up at a prospect's office or a client's office and just talking about whatever product I decided to talk about that day. I said, well, consultative selling is really quite the opposite. It's sort of about products that the client needs, which you don't learn about until you do discovery. And he said, well, I'll listen to it. It's new. I like my old way, and but I'll at least listen to it. And he was very respectful about that. Well, he listened, went through the course. We had a lot of fun. Questions, answers, back and forth. And he called me 3 days later and said, Neil, I have to tell you, I called on a prospect that I've been calling on for 5 years, and she has never bought one product from me in 5 years. So first of all, I congratulated him for being so persistent and determined to get her to do business. He said, halfway through my meeting with her, which was only about 20 minutes, I realized I was getting nowhere, and I had to try a different approach. So I used your consultative selling approach. Well, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, it is not mine. I didn't create it. It was created 30 years ago, at least. So he said, I tried your approach, and I started asking her questions about her business and the challenges she's facing and what her big goals were and what she wanted to do over the next 1, 3, 5, maybe even 10 years. He said, we had the best conversation we've ever had. And before I left, she bought $25,000 worth of products that were useful to her. It wasn't what I was pitching that day, but we had so many other products to choose from. Based on what she told me, I made a couple suggestions on what would work best based on other clients. That was it. A relationship was born right there on the spot. So it's kind of cool. So the old way, again, product pushing is leading with your product or a pitch. The conversation starts with you, not the client's needs. And with that, you've already lost them. Secondly, you talk more than you listen. Research shows that reps talk 30% of the time. The rest are talking 70%, and they wonder why the deals stall. So the top reps talk 30%. Most of the other reps, the product pushers, talk 70%. The ratio really should be 30% us talking, and it's asking questions and listening, probing, and 70% the prospect client. And for ease of use going forward, instead of saying prospect and client, let's just use prospect going forward, right? They also, the product pushers, focus on features and price. Buyers don't care about features. They care about outcomes. The number one radio station on their mind is WIIFM. What's in it for? I joke about that in my training sessions. That is a radio station. It actually is not. It is exactly what prospects are wondering. Why are you here? Why should I listen? And what is in it for me? Okay, so features without context are really just noise. So we're not going to waste time talking about features right now. We want to really focus with the prospects on solutions based on their needs. Close at any cost. Product pushers will do this. When they get the pressure to close, it creates resistance. And all of a sudden, the buyers feel manipulated. And what does a product pusher do? Especially one with very little experience? They lower the price. And we're not talking about lowering the price on your solutions. You don't need to do that. So that's the old way. That's the product push. Let's talk about the new way, the better way, the more effective way, the way that you're going to close more deals, make more money, and have more fun. And the new way is consultative selling. Now, I want to pause because when I learned about this back in the late 90s, I embraced it completely because it made sense. Because now I wasn't pushing product based on my needs and that was to make commissions. I was positioning products as solutions after a really good discovery call. So lead is what the consultative pros do and what I did every time. You lead with questions and curiosity. The first question you ask says more about you than any pitch. It makes things really matter because the prospect understands that you're not there to just pitch them on something. You're there to understand what they need, what's getting in their way, as I mentioned earlier, what's stopping them or preventing them from getting from where they are now to where they want to be in the next 12, 24, 36 months. So lead with questions and curiosity. And we will talk more about that, about leading with questions and curiosity as we go through this program. I've got some really great solutions for you that have worked thousands of times. As I talked about just a moment ago, we want to listen 70% and talk 30%. The more you understand before speaking, the better your solution will land every time. Now, some people have reminded me during these training sessions, we're born with 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should listen twice as much as we talk. 70-30 is a pretty good ratio, and that works for me. Third, focus on the client's problem. Solve the right problem in the right way, and price becomes secondary. When you can provide a solution to something meaningful when it comes to a real challenge they're facing, it puts you in good light. Price doesn't really matter. Now, granted, if the price is 1,000 times more than your competitors and you have a problem, but if it's slightly more, 20%, 30%, 40% higher, and it's the right solution, you won't get pushback. And the other thing I like about consultative selling, and there are a few other things I want to bring up, it builds long-term relationships. Clients don't refer vendors. They refer trusted advisors who made a real difference in their business. You become more of I want to use this a little bit loosely, more of a friend, more of a person they trust versus the vendor who's just pushing products. The buyer has changed. Old tactics no longer work. The old tactics no longer work. Here's the proof. 67%, that is 67% of the buyer's journey is completed before speaking to a sales rep. 84% of buyers begin their purchase process with a referral. They're learning as much as they can before they talk to any sales rep. And they are also 3 times more likely to buy from a trusted advisor than a product pusher. You see the numbers, how they add up here? This really falls right on your lap as terrific advantage. And finally, 91% of customers say they'd give referrals to their trusted advisors. Only 11% of the reps, however, ever ask. And you won't get referrals going to product pushers. I don't want to say they're a waste, but it's not a good use of time. So let's talk about consultative selling. Now that I've given you a little bit of an overview in terms of what we're talking about, consultative selling is the foundation of a trust-based sales approach. A trust-based sales approach. What I want to talk about here is consultative selling is a sales approach that prioritizes building relationships and understanding the prospect's unique needs before recommending a solution. I'm going to repeat this. Consultative selling is a sales approach that prioritizes building relationships and understanding prospects' unique needs before recommending a solution. And that positions the rep as a trusted advisor. It's really awesome relationship that builds from that. And I can say that because I have thousands of them as a result of all I did since the 1990s. That's the foundation of everything in this book, in this program. So when you think consultative selling, I want you to think of a trust-based approach, and that's a big difference. There are 3 core principles. I believe this will make sense to you as you apply it to your life. What consultative selling means in practice: diagnose before prescribing. If you think about your last doctor's visit, what did they do with you? They asked you, why are you here? Tell you about the symptoms. What's bothering you? How long has it been bothering you? And now, that wasn't 50 questions, right? Did you feel like it was an interrogation? No, not at all. You believe that the doctors are asking because they genuinely care, and before they prescribe something, they want to make sure it's the best thing for you. So an experienced doctor never prescribes before diagnosing. They ask questions first. They understand the full picture. Then and only then, they recommend a solution. They also, and when it comes to the principles, of consultative selling, we always prioritize the client's goals. Not our commission, not our quota, the client's goals. Your success is measured by how well you solve the client's problems, not how fast you close, by how well you solve the client's problems. Their win is your win. When I was a sales rep in the 90s as well as early 2000s, my license plate was WIN, W-I-N, W-I-N. And yes, I had it on a gold Mercedes because I was really crushing sales and having a lot of fun. And that was my gift to myself because I always wanted a Mercedes. But I took care of the clients first. When I helped them succeed, what I found is I always also succeeded. So their win is your win. And I want to tell you a little bit more about way to win. It's a philosophy that comes out of a book by Stephen Covey, The Habits of Highly Effective People. The 7 habits of highly effective people. And the way to win is when you focus on helping other clients win, and 𝐬𝐫𝐫𝐞 talks about this, and Brian Tracy, and so many of the others, when you're focused on helping your clients succeed and overcome their challenges by providing good solutions, they win. And as a result, with the law of reciprocity, what you put out in the universe, a little philosophical here, but what you put out in the universe does come back eventually. Maybe not in every situation, although it does happen in many situations. So that is the win. It's a great philosophy to go through life with. Also, as far as another core principle, number 3 is it builds long-term relationships. A consultative sales rep is a business partner, and they're called upon when new challenges arise, not just when contracts are due for renewal. So it's a different relationship. You won't see many business owners, if you're doing B2B, reach out and call a product pusher because they see them as one-dimensional. The product pusher doesn't, it's like a one-trick pony, to use a term that we used many, many years ago. And that's not the consultative approach they want to deal with. They're looking for an expert, a trusted advisor, somebody who will guide them and navigate them through tough times to help them get clear sail to where they really want to go ultimately. That makes a big difference. I'm just going to do 2 more slides here. Here's the core philosophy. I want you to think about this quote from John Maxwell. Although other companies have used, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Yes, I'll give that to you. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Now, that quote is probably 20 years old, and yet I've been in sales since early 90s, late 80s. That quote still falls true today. People generally want to know, how much do you care? Are you here for the commission? Are you here to push a product? Or you genuinely care about my business? And people can tell pretty much immediately within the first minute on your approach. So again, that's the core philosophy. The 4 pillars I want to talk about are, number 1, understand. Number 2, empathize. Number 3, add value. And number 4, commit. So let's talk about understand first. Deeply understand the client's world before proposing anything. Again, that comes from asking really good discovery questions and being curious. We'll talk more about that in terms of the best way to do that, because there are some things I will recommend that you do and other things you don't do that I've seen rookies fall prey to. The empathize part, when you show genuine care for their challenges and goals, people can tell. Think about you. When you're talking to somebody about an issue that's heavily on your mind, can you tell when they really care? Or when they're just, as people would say, blowing smoke, they're just faking it? We don't want to do that. We want to empathize. We want to sincerely empathize. Number 3 is adding value. Every interaction should leave them better informed or equipped after employment. It's one of the comments sales managers gave to me. They said, we want to call you Mr. Value Add, because every time you're in this office to see our sales reps before they speak with their clients, you add value every single time. Nobody watches you walk out the door and think, oh my gosh, what a waste of my time. What they're thinking every time is, that guy always adds value. I treasure even the 5 or 10 minutes we have with him because he always adds value. That's the reputation you want to have if you want to close more deals and build stronger relationships along the way. And finally, the commit that I talked about a moment ago. You want to be the sales rep, the trusted advisor that they call when they face new problems. You want to be what I like to refer to as their go-to person. So let's talk again about the 4 pillars of consultative selling. Number 1 is discovery, because every great consultative interaction is built on these 4 foundations. So number 1 is discovery. Number 2 is empathy. Number 3 is expertise. And number 4 is partnership. So discovery. We want you, and I encourage you, because I've done this thousands and thousands of times, ask questions to uncover the real problem, not just the surface level symptom that the client first presents. You want to dig deep. You ask somebody, how you doing? I'm fine. Everything's good. Really? Tell me more about that. And now people start to dive deeper, as opposed to just the old, oh yeah, I'm fine. Everything's fine. That another 4-letter word. It's just like fluff. Number 2, the empathy part I talked about a moment ago, but I want to dig more deeply. Understand the emotional and business stakes for the buyer. Because people buy from people they trust and who truly care. And what we want to find out when it comes to empathy is, what if they don't make a good decision? What if they don't make a decision to make any changes with their business? What's the downside? What do they have to lose? What do they have to gain if they do make a good decision and move forward? What do they have to lose? So number 3 kind of ties into expertise. When you offer genuine insight, not just a product brochure, but genuine insight, you become the most resourceful person in the room. So now you're thinking, where do I get such insight? You get it from experience. You get it from doing this dozens and dozens and then hundreds and thousands of times. So with that, you can say very easily, as an expert, based on what you told, I have 3 other clients that face the same thing in the past year. Here's what we suggested for them, and this was the outcome. Because now you're talking as an expert who's done this a bunch of times, not the rookie saying, well, I don't know, we could try this and see what happens. You're coming across as the expert. Now, I will tell you, the more often you do this, and the more success stories you gather, you will even believe in yourself as an expert, as opposed to, oh man, phony baloney here. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to wing it. We don't wing it. Not after all this expertise and all these experiences. Now we come across differently. More like a seasoned professor in college than a rookie teacher fresh out of college. It's a different story. And finally, number 4 is partnership. You position yourself as an ongoing ally, not a one-time vendor. I talked earlier about the one-trick pony. Someone pushing product might sell something once, but they won't be allowed in the door in many cases. We want to talk about building more of a long-term business partnership, which consistently adds value to our prospects. So I'm going to tell you more about that in a little bit, but why don't we just stop there? I want you to pause, and I want you to think about some of the prospects you're calling on and some good questions you could ask. I always like to know, tell me about your business. And I was famous for my 10-minute appointments because people are busy, especially when I'm calling on business owners. So I would ask for a 10-minute appointment. And I'd go in there and say, I promised you 10 minutes. I'm going to set my running watch. And for 5 minutes, tell me about your business. What's working? What isn't? What would you like to change? And if you changed, what could you accomplish in the next 12 to 18 months? And then I'd ask, do you mind if I take notes while you talk? And I would let them talk for about 5 minutes. I would nod. I might ask, tell me more about that. But I would not go into any stories and say, I was talking to somebody just last week. This is your time to really, truly listen. Because remember this, and you can write this down. Listen and silent had the same 6 letters, they're just rearranged. And we cannot listen unless we are silent. So this is your time during discovery to really pay attention. Now, do you write everything down word for word? No, of course not, because you'll miss most of the conversation. But key points, referrals or repeat business or whatever the key word is, write that down and you can refer to it later. So with that, what I would do is after listening for 5 minutes, I'd say, okay, is there anything else I should know? By the way, it's a great question. Is there anything else I should know? I'd say, based on what you told me, it sounds like if we could come up with a solution for referrals to grow your business, as well as how to strengthen client relationships, you would keep more of the clients you have. Is that true? Is that accurate? And then I zip my lips again and I pay attention to what they're saying. So in this program, you're going to learn certainly lots and lots about consultative selling, and will also tie in stories that boost what I'm saying. Because like I said, I've done this thousands and thousands of times. I've worked with and I've trained 50,000 salespeople in my career. And some of the trainings are brief, maybe 10 minutes, and others are much more expanded over a couple of hours, or maybe a couple of programs in a couple of days. So I want to share that experience with you because I believe it'll make you more effective and let you have more fun in this business. As I mentioned earlier, I want to teach you how to have more fun, build more trust, make more money, and find more time. And that's it for today. Until next time, what I'd like you to do is make a list of some of the most common questions you can have for discovery. And while you're at it, also make a list of the most common objections. And we'll talk about answering those and discussing those in another segment. But for now, I'm going to wrap this up right here and close it.